Well, we know what he did. He flew all the way to Kenya. He had his mother's ring in his backpack, and he was checking it the whole time. He took her to this idyllic place in the shadow of Mount Kenya, got down on one knee and proposed. I mean, that's amazingly romantic.
But he's never told that story necessarily.
No, but he stayed in a well, he told me.
So a lot of this is supposition.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because he went. They stayed in the little shack, and there was one man looking after him. We got to him and spoke to him. What was it like for them? And then he took her to this very remote place. It was very beautiful. She wasn't expecting it, apparently. But the fact is, there was one guy looking after them, and that's it. And he's spoken.
I know. My point is that Harry and Meghan both shared that detail themselves in person. William and Catherine have never volunteered that level of information.
Well, probably just a tad more discreet. But the fact is, I think it was an incredibly romantic moment, and all he was worried about was losing the ring. Could you imagine, you get all that way, you get in,
and that ring of all the rings.
Bodyguards paying, who's got the ring? You know?
All the rings.
Yeah, I think she's asked about it in their engagement interview, and she says, you know, it was very nerve-wracking but very romantic. But yeah, beyond that, yeah, they were quite sort of short in their answers. Cause I think it was in 2011, I think.
Yeah, that's right. They were quite short, but you see, the thing is, there were a lot. I mean, I think it was terrifically romantic. It's better than sort of, you know.
Well, it just goes to show how fiercely protective they are of some of their really key private moments, which, by the way, they're more than entitled to keep
Quite
themselves.
right.
I think they've shared. They do share a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Interesting. On the day that they said "I do," she promised to love and to cherish her husband, but never to obey him. That was quite a modern strike, wasn't it?
I mean, good for her. I think there's no reason to include that in this day and age, and I think it might have sent out the wrong message if she had.
Did Diana say she'd obey? I don't think she said she'd obey.
Maybe not.
I don't think she did.
Let's check the history books on that one.
Oh.
Let's talk about the fact.
Why should she obey?
Damn right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her background. She's regularly referred to as a commoner. Let's explain for our viewers around the world what is meant and intended by that.
Well, first of all, there's absolutely nothing common about Kate. She may be a commoner, but she's a graceful lady and a wonderful person. But I think all it means is you're not a member of the royal family, and you're not a aristocratic noble birth.
You're not titled.
You're not titled. You're not like Princess Diana really was.
Lady Diana
Lady
Spencer.
Diana, she's a daughter of an earl, you know, so that's basically around about it. Also, Diana's roots go back to the Stuart dynasty, and so that's where a lot of things are similar. But
and also with Sarah Ferguson, as much as she wasn't titled, she was from
landed gentry.
Landed gentry.
Same as Camilla, really.
And her father looked after the Queen's horses,
Yeah,
so there was connections. Whereas Catherine really was somebody that had met her boyfriend at college.
Yeah, her
university.
granddad was a painter and decorator. I know they all said he was this very successful, but he wasn't. He was a painter and decorator, and actually, very sadly, he fell off his ladder and was injured and couldn't work anymore towards the end of his life. He had a pretty tough life, you know. But I think what was really good about that, you know, I think when I spoke to Gary, her uncle, he said that, you know, we come from a family of fixers and doers. We are we solve things, and Carol's raised the children to be in that mould, to get on with things and face up to what's in front of you. And I think that that's a good thing to have. And it's, you know, that is there again. You know, you are a commoner. A granddad was a painter and decorator. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. And my grandfather was a painter and decorator. But the bottom line of that is, it's very different from Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon or you know, Queen Alexandra. You know, it's a very different background. And it shows that, as we've seen in Denmark and Norway, you know, it's changing, and it's changing for love, and that's good.
And for the better, I think.
And for the better, yeah.
Marks her out as a real asset to the family.
Well, I think
she's
that's
bringing that different perspective.
I mean, for you know, the young generation of people, this is an institution that, you know, doesn't have, there's not the same deference around. There's not the same class system around. So you have to have someone who's a princess of the people that, you know, has been to work on a double-decker bus, understands.
A waitress at uni.
Yeah, a waitress. You know, you've got to have that to bring a bit of reality. I mean, her children are all been born princes and princesses. Her husband was born a prince. Her father-in-law was always destined to be king. They won't know what it's really like to be, you know, one of the people. And that's not a criticism. They just won't.
How do you think her upbringing has influenced the way she and William raised their own family?
Oh, very strongly, I think. I mean, you know, they're great kids, aren't they? They're a great family, and they're a credit to them. But the bottom line is, well, it is quite good, because with George and Charlotte, they're almost perfect, aren't they? You always feel. But when Louis plays up, you just think that there's a bit of sense of reality there when he's pulling faces, and then he put on his granddad's knee to calm him down. But they're great kids. They're a great family.
Now, alongside the pomp, pageantry and privilege that comes with royal life, there is also a constant media spotlight on the Princess of Wales. In the early days, Catherine's family did their utmost to try to reduce press attention, not just on her, but them as well. How do you think, Natasha, they've handled themselves when it comes to dealing with unknown territory like the British press?
Well, I think they approach it with caution, but they maintain a good relationship with the papers and with the press, and they kind of understand how that works. But yeah, there's no kind of exclusive, specific access, particularly that the princess has, which is obviously very different to how Princess Diana behaved, and that's probably maybe come from William and kind of Diana's experiences with the media, for better or for worse. But yeah, as you said, Emily, they share a lot in the sense that, particularly on their Instagram these days, you see them jumping off beaches as a family in Norfolk, and people love to see that, I think, and it really genuinely makes people happy.
Must have been really hard for her, especially because of the love that still lives on unabated regarding her mother-in-law, the late Princess Diana. She wears her ring. The comparisons were always going to be there. They now share the title. That can't be an easy comparison to live with, can it?
No, but I think no one would ever expect her to sort of fill Diana's shoes. She's very much her own person. And, she obviously never met the late princess. So she is relying on, the public impression of her, but also what she's been told by Diana's son. And that, I think, is more important
they're very
in many
different,
ways.
aren't they? She came to this very compared to Diana, Diana was 36 and she tragically passed. And Catherine was nearly 30 when she became married into the royal family. So they're very different characters, and I think actually having those years of experience, it must have benefited her. With Diana, I remember, I was around covering it at the time, and it was, she had to deal with an awful lot, an awful lot of problems, and also she had to deal with the fact that she was in for most of it, a pretty loveless marriage.
And I think also going back to her own upbringing, Princess Diana came from a slightly fractured family, and Kate really has the advantage of that solid,
loving,
secure background, and that's made a huge difference for her.